You think you understand NBA hierarchy? Think again. I've identified 7 key levels that separate the guys fighting for 10-day contracts from the legends who transcended basketball itself. Most fans only see the surface. Stars versus role players. But the real story runs deeper. From G League hopefuls grinding for their first shot to transcendent icons who changed culture forever. Each level has its own brutal reality. We're starting at the bottom where dreams go to die. Level 1, two-way contracts and G League hopefuls. Level 1 is where basketball dreams meet brutal reality. These dudes are one bad practice away from working at Dick's Sporting Goods. Every NBA team carries 15 guaranteed spots. But there's this whole shadow roster of guys on Exhibit 10 deals and two-way contracts grinding in the G League, praying someone above them gets hurt or screws up bad enough to create an opening. McClung is a viral dunker and high-flying prospect who built a massive social media following. But when it comes to actual basketball, defense, ball handling, making the right read, he's still fighting for scraps like everyone else at this level. Two-way contracts let these younger players split time between the G League and NBA for up to 50 regular season games, which explains why they're constantly bouncing between leagues and why the pay difference matters so much. Your entire life fits in a duffel bag because you never know where you'll be next week. You're sleeping in cheap hotels, checking your phone every morning to see if you got cut, constantly looking over your shoulder because some college kid might take your spot tomorrow. Ish Smith represents the success story here. A longtime journeyman who carved out a decade-plus career by mastering the backup role, Smith understood his assignment perfectly. Come in, run the offense, don't turn the ball over and make everyone else's job easier. That's what survival looks like when you're not talented enough to demand a permanent spot. The math is insane when you break it down. Thousands of college players enter the draft every year. Maybe 60 get picked. And only a handful of undrafted guys ever see real NBA minutes. You're competing against Division I stars, international pros, and former NBA players trying to make comebacks. It's like musical chairs, except there's one chair for every 100 players. These players live in constant fear because one injury to a starter could be their big break, or one bad showing could end their dream forever. You might dominate Summer League and look like the next big thing. Then reality hits when you're trying to guard actual NBA players who've been doing this for years. Most of these guys peak in Summer League highlight reels. They'll have that one game where they drop 30 points and Twitter goes crazy, but then the real season starts and they're back riding the bench or getting sent down to the G League. Level 1 isn't about talent. It's about pure survival instinct and the willingness to chase a dream that probably won't happen. But who actually climbs out of this level? We'll see how a few two-way guys turned one audition into a full-time deal. But first, let's talk about the players who had everything handed to them and still couldn't make it work. Level 2, failed lottery picks. Level 2 is where million-dollar expectations go to die. And trust me, the fall hits different when you're supposed to be the chosen one. These aren't scrubs grinding in the G League. These dudes were the best players in college, got drafted in the lottery, and had entire franchises betting their future on them. Anthony Bennett went #1 overall and became a canonical example of a #1 pick who never lived up to expectations and bounced around before disappearing from the rotation. We're talking about a guy who was supposed to be a franchise cornerstone, the face of a rebuild, the answer to Cleveland's prayers before LeBron came back. Instead, he looked completely lost every time he stepped on the court. The pressure is completely different at Level 2 because everyone remembers draft night. The suit, the handshake with Adam Silver, the highlights that got you picked, the interviews where you talked about being ready to contribute immediately. That moment gets replayed forever, especially when you can't live up to it. Markelle Fultz developed a pronounced shooting problem on entry to the league that derailed his early progress. Imagine being so in your head that you literally can't do the thing you've done your whole life. This dude had a smooth stroke in college, then suddenly developed this broken shooting motion that looked like he was throwing darts at a board. The mental side of basketball destroyed him before he could even get started. Ben Simmons had all the tools to be Magic Johnson but refused to consistently develop a jump shot, and the hesitation cost him in the modern spacing era. 6'10", incredible vision, elite athleticism, but he'd rather pass up wide-open looks than risk the criticism. That reluctance infected his entire game and eventually got him run out of Philadelphia. The cruel part is these guys often have more raw talent than players in higher levels. But basketball isn't just about talent. It's about mentality. Draft position creates narrative pressure and long-term expectations that magnify mental errors. The difference between talent and realized success here is psychological adaptation and accountability. Draft position becomes a prison because fans and media never let you forget what you were supposed to be versus what you actually became. Every game becomes a referendum on whether you were worth that lottery pick, and that weight crushes players who aren't mentally prepared for it. Level 2 proves that potential means nothing without the right mindset, work ethic, and ability to handle pressure when millions are watching. The difference between a bust and a star often comes down to how you respond when things don't go according to plan. And the whole basketball world is questioning whether you belong. But here's where it gets interesting. Some players figure out how to maximize limited talent through pure basketball intelligence. Level 3. Veteran role players who hold everything together. Level 3 is where basketball IQ meets experience. And these dudes might not fill up the stat sheet, but they'll make your favorite superstar look like a scrub. Think about PJ Tucker. This dude guards everyone from point guards to centers and never looks out of place doing it. These players are nomads who bounce between contenders because they bring something you can't teach. The ability to do all the little things that win championships. They're like those old mechanics who can fix any car just by listening to the engine. Tucker spent years perfecting the art of annoying opposing stars, standing in exactly the right spot and making the simple play every single time. Kyle Lowry went from an all-star in Toronto to the perfect veteran leader in Miami, shifting into a mentorship and defensive leadership role even when his legs are completely gone. Andre Iguodala accepted reduced minutes to become a playoff chess piece and locker room leader. Instead of chasing stats or complaining about their roles, they embraced being the smart veterans who know when to speak up and when to let their play do the talking. The beauty of Level 3 is these guys know exactly who they are and what their role is. No ego, just pure basketball intelligence. They understand their value and execute their assignments perfectly. They're diving for loose balls in Game 7 and taking charges from guys half their age when championship moments arrive. They're the ones calming down teammates when things get crazy. When the young stars start pressing or making bad decisions, these veterans step in with the right word or the right play to steady the ship. Teams pay these dudes millions not for their numbers, but for their experience and matchup control in the postseason. It's like hiring a consultant who's seen every possible situation and knows exactly how to handle it. Their presence changes how teams practice, how they approach games, and how they handle adversity. Level 3 players are proof that basketball is a team sport. You can have all the talent in the world, but you need glue guys to hold it together. These veterans understand that rings matter more than individual stats, and that wisdom makes them invaluable when playoff time arrives and championships get decided. But even the smartest role players need someone to carry the load night after night. That's where the next level comes in. Players who might not be superstars but show up with the same energy every single game. Level 4, solid starters who keep teams afloat. Level 4 is where consistency meets reliability. These dudes might not be household names, but they're the reason your team doesn't completely fall apart. This level comes down to 3 things: reliable minutes, consistent production, and perfect system fit. CJ McCollum represents this level perfectly. Steady 20-point scorer who hits big shots when you need them and never causes drama in the locker room or demands trades on social media. Tyler Herro brings that offensive burst as a secondary option, lighting up scoreboards when he gets hot. But you're not building a championship around him as your main guy. Jalen Brunson's transformation with the Knicks shows how these players can elevate when the role finally matches their skill set. He went from solid backup in Dallas to becoming the engine that drives New York's offense. The challenge for Level 4 players is brutal. They're good enough to be the best player on bad teams, but not quite elite enough to be the second option on great teams. They exist in this weird middle ground where they're too good for some situations and not quite good enough for others. These players often get meaningful multi-year deals, but rarely the max. Teams prize their stability and reliable production. They're workhorses who start 70 games, play 35 minutes, and anchor rotations without the pressure of being the franchise centerpiece. They're like that reliable car that starts every morning. Not flashy, not exciting, but you know exactly what you're getting when you turn the key. The beauty is in their reliability. You know exactly what you're getting every single night. And that consistency is incredibly valuable in a league where stars load manage and drama follows teams everywhere. While superstars are dealing with media circus and championship expectations, these guys just show up and do their jobs. They handle the bulk of regular season minutes, so your stars don't have to carry everything on their shoulders. But they can also step up when injuries hit or when the moment demands more production. Level 4 is the backbone of most NBA teams. They're not superstars, but they're the steady presence that keeps everything functioning when chaos strikes. Which of these guys still has a path upward? It usually comes down to fit and a single playoff moment. But climbing that next level requires something completely different, the ability to bend the game itself. Level 5. Perennial All-Stars who dominate. Level 5 is where perennial All-Stars consistently make all NBA teams and enter MVP conversations. These dudes don't just play the game, they dominate it night after night for years. Jason Tatum finally broke through and led the Celtics to a championship, proving he belongs in that elite tier of two-way excellence. For years, people questioned whether he could be the best player on a title team, whether he had that killer instinct when everything mattered most. Then he delivered when it counted, showing he could dominate both ends of the floor when the lights were brightest. The pressure at this level is insane, because you're expected to carry franchises and perform in the biggest moments when everything is on the line. These aren't role players or solid starters. These dudes have entire cities depending on them to deliver championships and create memories that last forever. Damian Lillard has that clutch and deep range ability that separates good players from great ones. This dude hits shots from the parking lot when the game matters most. It's not just about making difficult shots. It's about wanting the ball when everyone's watching and your team needs a miracle. That mental toughness can't be taught or faked. Jimmy Butler transforms into a playoff weapon-level intensity that elevates teams, dragging squads like Miami to finals appearances through pure force of will. Regular season Butler is good, but playoff Butler becomes this relentless machine who refuses to let his team lose. It's like watching someone flip a switch and become superhuman when the stakes get highest. These players warp defenses just by being on the court. Teams have to game plan specifically around stopping them, or they'll drop 40 on your head. The scrutiny these players face in the playoffs, and media is constant because everyone knows what they're capable of achieving when it matters most. The difference between level 5 and lower levels is consistency at the highest level. These guys show up every single night for years. They're not having good weeks or good months. They're having good seasons and good careers without major drop-offs or disappearing acts. They're in MVP conversations, making all NBA teams, and carrying the expectations of entire fan bases on their shoulders. The media attention is constant. The criticism is harsh when they fail, and the pressure never stops building. If you want to get from level 4 to 5, you need consistent dominance, playoff moments, and a narrative that proves you belong among the elite. Level 5 players are the engines that turn good teams into championship contenders. They have that rare combination of skill and mental toughness that separates elite from very good. But even these superstars aren't the final word in basketball hierarchy. Level 6. Superstar players who define eras. Level 6 is where superstar icons define franchises and eras. These dudes don't just dominate games. They reshape how we think about the sport itself. We're talking about players who transcend winning and losing to become cultural forces that influence generations of fans and players. Kobe Bryant won 5 championships, but it was that legendary work ethic that cemented him as an icon who defined an entire generation of basketball. The Mamba mentality wasn't just about scoring points or winning games. It became a philosophy that athletes in every sport still reference today. This dude turned basketball obsession into a global brand that outlasted his playing career. The pressure here goes beyond winning. These players have to live up to being the face of franchises and cultural movements. You're not just trying to get buckets or make playoffs. You're carrying the weight of entire cities and fan bases who see you as more than an athlete. Every move gets analyzed. Every decision becomes part of your legacy. Stephen Curry completely revolutionized basketball strategy and forced teams to value three-point shooting and spacing more than ever before. Before Curry, big men dominated the paint and threes were specialty shots. After Curry, every team started hunting three-pointers, and kids around the world were launching shots from the parking lot trying to copy his range. Kevin Durant is an unguardable scorer who built a Hall of Fame resume through pure talent, even when team choices and narratives sometimes complicate public perception. This dude can score from anywhere on the court against any defender, and that skill alone was enough to make him an icon even when people questioned his decisions or criticized his moves between teams. These players attract global attention and influence how kids around the world learn to play basketball. Their impact reaches far beyond wins and losses. When you're at level 6, you're not just playing for your team or your city. You're representing something bigger that connects with people who've never even touched a basketball. Level 6 means your jersey gets retired, your number becomes sacred, and decades later, people still argue about where you rank all time. It's like being inducted into basketball royalty, where your legacy becomes part of the sport's history forever. They define eras and create lasting legacies that transcend their playing careers. Think about how Kobe's mentality still influences players today who never even played against him. These icons become reference points that future generations measure themselves against. The expectations are crushing because you're not just trying to win games, you're trying to build something that lasts forever. But even these icons recognize there's one final level where basketball stops being just a sport and becomes something that changes the world. Level 7, Transcendent Legends Who Changed Everything. Level 7 transforms basketball from sport into global mythology. We're talking about players who didn't just win games. They rewrote what it meant to be an athlete and turned basketball into something that connects every corner of the planet. Michael Jordan turned basketball into a global phenomenon. This dude became the reason basketball transformed from American sport into worldwide entertainment. Jordan didn't just play basketball, he performed it like theater on the biggest stages when millions were watching. Every move became iconic. Every moment became mythology that people still reference decades later. At this level, the pressure goes beyond sports because you're representing something bigger than yourself or even your team. You're not just trying to win championships, you're carrying the weight of being a global ambassador for an entire sport and culture. LeBron James represents longevity and versatility across decades, playing in finals with different teams and adapting his game as the league evolved around him. This dude figured out how to stay relevant and dominant while the sport completely changed, showing that sustained excellence requires constant evolution and mental toughness that most humans don't possess. Magic Johnson helped turn the NBA into appointment television that captured America's attention. Before Magic, basketball was this niche sport that most people ignored. After Magic, it became appointment television that families watched together and celebrities showed up to see. These players didn't just win championships. They created mythology that endures decades after they stopped playing. Their games became folklore, their rivalries became epic stories, and their personalities became bigger than the sport itself. Level 7 means your impact reaches far beyond basketball courts into fashion, business, and popular culture on a global scale. These dudes influenced how people dress, talk, and think about success and competition in ways that most athletes never even approach. They're the reason kids in China, Europe, and Africa fell in love with basketball and dreamed of playing in the NBA. Basketball became this universal language that transcended borders, languages, and cultures because these legends showed the world what was possible. These transcendent legends shaped how the league values max contracts, marketing, and global branding. They prove that business and culture matter as much as on-court excellence when you're building something that lasts forever. The Transcendent Legends understood that basketball was entertainment, and they performed on the biggest stages when the whole world was watching. They knew every game was a show, every moment was an opportunity to create something magical that people would remember forever. At the top, it's no longer about points or rebounds. It's about rewriting culture. These 7 levels reveal something deeper about what it really takes to climb the basketball hierarchy. Making the NBA is about talent. Climbing it is about mental toughness, adaptability, and marquee moments. Max contracts come with championship expectations that crush players who can't handle the pressure. Positionless basketball shifted what skills teams prize: versatility and basketball. IQ matter more than traditional positions. Social media changed how players build brands and carry narratives that can elevate or destroy careers. Now you understand why some lottery picks flame out while undrafted guys carve out decade-long careers. The levels aren't just about talent. They're about who you become when basketball gets hard. If you made it this far, leave a like. Which level do you think Jaylen Brown belongs to? Drop your take below. At the end of the day, clutch moments and the mental game matter more than box score numbers. Like and subscribe for 1,000 years of luck. Until next time.